Imagine you're just about to leave school, ready to follow your state-designated path, following your dad down the mill for the rest of your life. Suddenly you find yourself in a movement that's inclusive. Its members can be found in all walks of life, but predominantly the types of people you were told to keep away from or avoid, like the gays, the blacks, the Irish, the immigrants, and the outsiders from continents far and wide, as well as the curiously minded indigenous population, the Brits. This new movement was unifying, it was androgynous, it was classless, you didn't need money to get involved. It didn't matter what colour you were or what country you were from, what your religion was. It has a basic musical soundtrack and is anti-fashion. It's creative, it's intelligent, it's philosophical. It offers an alternative to the norm. It talks about believing in nothing and questioning everything, personal anarchy and being the person you were meant to be. It's about re-education. This new musical phenomena, punk rock, is in the country far and wide, creeping into the tiniest of hamlets throughout our island paradise and upsetting the status quo. Whatever happens now will be life-changing. Suddenly you are awake. You can't go back to sleep again. Suddenly you realise you're not the person you thought you were, and most of the things you were taught to believe in were lies. It's scary, it's exciting, but the possibilities seem endless. What do you do, join in and take control of your life or leave it to the state? It's 1977, this is My Bradford. Discover what unified this ragtag bag of outsiders who were like brothers and sisters under the banner of punk rock.
We don't come from Liverpool, London, we don't come from Manchester, we are not from DEV, or we don't come from Ashton. We're from Bradford, 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 we're from Bradford, Bradford, Bradford.
One of the early Bradford punk characters was Aki Nawaz, formerly of the band Southern Death Cult and now musician with Fundamental. He also set up the indie label Nation Records.
My father was against kind of music, especially Western music, although he had a great desire and love for Bollywood and Lata Mangeshkar and Rafi. And obviously my house was a Muslim, moderate Muslim Pakistani house. So we were brought up in banging the Asian area, and we had, there was different things going on. So I just came in and I just put this record on, and I think it was The Clash. And I just heard it, and for some reason it was almost like a kind of, Moses coming down from the mountain or something. It just woke me up, and because I actually loved music, but I dare not admit it because of my cultural kind of baggage and background and all that stuff. And it just freed me. And I remember my brother had totally destroyed the family because he'd got into punk rock a few months before me. And so here was my dad, who had great aspirations for his two immigrant sons and his immigrant family. They're going to be prime ministers and councillors and world leaders, and suddenly overnight both of his sons turn into punk rockers, and it just it almost like destroyed him in a way. But it was just the freedom to be able to get away from this kind of boring, undescribable British culture, which I could never understand. And also getting away from kind of the big brother attitude of our community, what was always trying to control us as young people and what we thought. So it was basically putting two fingers up at both cultures for me. That was my context. He's saying, here is a lifestyle that I can make up my own rules or not, or do whatever I want, and that was the main attraction.
Although the Bradford punks were a very multicultural group that got on well with each other, there was a lot of racial tension in the wider world. The extreme sides of the political spectrum were both growing in popularity in Britain, and punk was a driving force within the Rock Against Racism movement, which used music as a weapon to unify rather than divide. Are you aware of how this Rock Against Racism gig started?
From what I gathered the other night, when Tom Robinson were explaining to people what the initial start-up of the Rock Against Racism was, apparently there were a gig in Birmingham which Eric Clapton was the star man, and there was apparently some people of colour in his concert, and he rejected that these people were in his concert and they should get out of the concert. And around them times, if I got it right, Enoch Paul were around and he said, quote unquote, that these people shouldn't be here, they should be all kicked out.
And he's quite revered, he's all clapped out, isn't he? You know, I remember people writing on walls, Clapton is God. So it's quite a strong statement. So all these gigs came about because of that one statement. It just shows you the backlash and all that, and unifying people. I find that quite that Clapton could come out with some of that. I mean, I don't know a lot about him, but you know, it's a strong statement. To go to a gig, you don't expect to see that, do you?
Especially when he made all his money out of
Exactly.
the background, you know.
The Negatives played many of the Rock Against Racism events, and I went along to meet the drummer Tino Palmer.
We got hooked up with Anti-Nazi League and Rock Against Racism, and that, I think, helped make us more than anything because we were always available. So we played anywhere and everywhere that they wanted us to, and it meant that we got a lot more exposure locally. Could have done with it being nationally. We never got asked to go anywhere else, but it was a time when things started to open up, when everyone then started to talk to each other. There were Pakistani and Indian punks, and everyone was sort of joining in. It was something that belonged to everyone rather than a sort of elite little club of prog rockers with strange albums under their arms and whatever, wasn't it? Everyone was allowed to join in. It wasn't, oh, you're the wrong colour, you're the wrong shape. Being on stage instead of off was kind of liberating. You know, it was being able to just do things and say things and people hearing them, and not being just sort of stood there saying something and people going, yeah. You've got amps, people have got to listen.
If you want to beat me up, I don't care what you do to me. Knock me down onto the ground, smash me until I can't see. Tie me up, beat me up, smash me in, kick me in, break an arm, break a leg. Remember what you've got assault and battery, 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 whoa, 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 assault and battery, just begun, assault and battery, assault and battery, assault and battery.
Right, this is the place of the Royal Standard, which was our punk pub in Bradford. I think it opened about late 77, was opened till, I don't know, 89 maybe, 90 when it got burnt down. In the punk days it was owned by a guy called Malcolm Fairplay, who was a bit of a character. His favourite phrase was 2 bands 80p. Standout gigs in Bradford that I remember here, there was too many to remember. There's a band called the Jerks, they played quite regularly and used to fill in when bands couldn't play. The Angelic Upstarts, they played quite a few times. They were well received here. There was a gig one week when no bands turned up, but there were loads of instruments, and Dave Wilcox, who became the singer of the Negatives, got on stage and started singing. And the future members of the Negatives, Pete Stobbs and Bob Robinson, were in the audience, and that's how the Negatives were formed. From that night, we all had to go out singing, and it was very memorable. But Dave obviously had that star quality.
You want to beat me up, I don't care what you do to me. Knock me down onto the ground, smash me until I can't see. Tie me up, beat me up, smash me in, kick me in, break an arm, break a leg.
Another big issue at the time, especially in the punk movement, was gender politics. It's quite a male-dominated industry in rock and roll, even though punk was trying to break those taboos down. It was still quite difficult for some of the punk girls, wasn't it? You know, there were X-ray specs and penetration and the slits, to name 3. I don't know where you put Wayne County, Jane County. Just to add a bit of confusion into that one.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, like you say, I felt in many ways because of how some people might see Harry Up as obnoxious and down to earth and straightforward. The record companies like to as I saw it from the time, I mean, I do remember some things, and some of the things were that the record companies, if they could strip these people down themselves and expose these women on stage, that's fine. But if you do it without anybody's, I found that they had a bit of a problem.
We were talking about women. So I think a few weeks ago I read something about punk and the women's movement. And I thought, how did we treat women when we were growing up, girls? And I don't even recall 1 ounce of sexism against other punk girls or anything like that. I don't recall anybody trying to dominate them or trying to dictate to them. I wasn't even aware that we were any different. I just saw us all as equals.
My wife she went everywhere in a pyjama jacket for about 6 months, absolutely everywhere. And she got me a lovely tailcoat from the Salvation Army. I remember it's 1913, it had a guy's name and a date on the inside pocket and little secret pockets in the tails. I think it was a magician's. So I had this tailcoat and I had a dinner jacket. I went for an interview in the dinner jacket because I'd gone straight from a gig in the morning. So dinner jacket, Lurex trousers, and went for an interview.
Did you get the job?
Yeah.
Even though punk was supposed to be anti-fashion, a lot of time and creativity went into creating its distinctive look. Punk wasn't just about fashion, it was far more wide-reaching. It was 24/7, it was a lifestyle choice, and it's still relevant, probably more so now than ever.
People still take on certain ideals. My daughter, after 16 years of not playing bass, last year took it up again with a friend of theirs, and they've started a punk band called Grot Baby. And it's just for, I say kids, they're 30, but it's 4 kids that have got together and they've got some stuff and they're singing about the things that annoy them. It's Kate and Lowell fronting it, and Brenda and Danny guitar and drums, but Kate's writing songs about things that annoy her, mostly men.
I think people have underestimated how it's played its role in the fabric of society right across here or across the world. And if you look around fashion, art, creativity, it's played its hand in there massively. My excuse or whatever justification I had for being a punk was in the Quran it said, "Blessed are the rebellious ones." And when I saw that, I just thought, I'm gonna do this until I die, yeah? And I don't care, because I know that rebelliousness brings new thoughts, and being free to think. We changed people's minds. If I thought it was a fad, if I thought it was a fashion and just a slight, I would have left it years ago. I wouldn't even be bothered talking about it. It meant so much to me as a refugee, as an immigrant, and from the ethnic kind of community.
We're from Bradford, Bradford, Bradford. We're from Bradford, Bradford, Bradford.